Welcome to Sew Very Easy. My name is Laura, and Fairfield is celebrating their 80th anniversary, and they're doing 80 projects, 80 days to celebrate their 80th anniversary. So I didn't want to miss being part of that. So I have designed a pillow using their polyfill. Now this is that little fluff stuff that goes in pillows and stuffed animals. And I've designed a little pillow for the back of the neck. It can be used for travel, or it can be just used for relaxing. And it takes 3 pieces of fabric and a little piece of ribbon on the end if you'd like. So let's get started. For the little neck pillow, you are going to need this template shape. And I'll put a link in the description so you can download it. You will need 2 of these shapes because they're going to go side by side. So when you tape them together, you're going to have this shape. Sort of looks like a dog bone. And this is the only shape we're going to need. So we're going to take this pattern piece and lay it on top of 3 pieces of fabric and cut out the shapes. And it won't matter which direction you go. The fabric I am using is from Shannon Fabrics. It's a very soft cuddle fabric, but you can make this in cotton, velvets, terry cloth, anything that you want. We just need 3 pieces of fabric cut out in the shape. So I have those 3 pieces cut out. On the pattern piece, you're going to see a little dot right at the end of that little heart shape. This is going to be a stopping and starting point. So it would be good if you were to transfer that onto your fabric. An option will be putting little ribbons on the ends. So you can either hold them or they can be used as hanging loops. And it won't matter the size. You could go really fancy and do tassels or just little pieces of ribbon. I will be using 2 pieces and they're 6 inches each. Fold the ribbons in half and pin them on one of the areas where we have that little heart shape go in. And we're going to pin those on the right side of the fabric. These are optional, but they are kind of fun. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to place a second piece on top. And we're going to sew from that point all the way over to that point. So I will have one side left open. I've used a 1/2 inch seam allowance, but you're more than welcome to use a 1/4 inch. Now that I have that one side stitched together, I get to put on the second side. Fold back that one area right to that stitching line and place that second fabric on top. Pin and stitch from this point all the way to this point. So you will now have 2 flaps open. And just ignore these little loops. They'll take care of themselves later. I do like sewing from the side where I can see where I stopped and started my stitching line. So I'm going to match up those edges, pin and stitch. When you are stitching around, just make sure that both of these edges that are loose are not stitched into that area. Once that seam is sewn, we're going to be able to match up those 2 extra edges. So this pillow has 3 sides. So just pick up those 2 edges, give it a little shake, and pin. From here we get to stitch from this dot over, and we're going to stop. Stitch from this dot over and stop. We need to leave approximately 3 inches in this area. This is where we're going to turn everything right side out, and it's also going to give us the area where we need to stuff it. So when you come to the end, do a little back stitch to secure that and start right at those dots. Before we turn this right side out, we can clip these little curved seams. Just take a pair of scissors and do a little snip really close to that stitching line. And go all the way around for about 3 inches. And do that to both sides. That snipping is going to help that keep a nice shape. And we can do a little clip right to the little point on each of these edges. Put the point of the scissors and just snip right to that point. We will have 3 pieces of fabric to do on each side. We just need to be careful we don't snip into the threads. We can now turn this pillow right side out. Be sure to poke out those 3 little heart shapes at the top. I will be using the original polyfill, but you can also use the silk polyfill. When it's stuffed, it sort of looks like a dog bone. I do like to have these little ends firmly stuffed, but the center does not need to be so firm. Having these edges firm when you have your neck here, it's going to help support your head, so your head's not going to droop one side or the other. Your neck has support, but your head is held upright. We can now just whip stitch this closed. To whip stitch, just pick up a little piece of fabric on the one side and pick up a little piece on the second. And then start again on the same side. Pick up a little piece and pick up a little piece from the second side. So we're making this loop. Be sure to knot that end and bury the thread in between. Pull the needle out, and now you can trim that thread off. And that little pillow is now done. You can see where we have this nice shape for the back of the neck. Those little ties just fit right inside of our stitching, so we didn't have to worry about doing anything special with those ties. And the neck pillow is now done. If you want the pillow larger, you can either use a smaller seam allowance or add a seam allowance. If you want it even smaller, just use an inch seam allowance. They could be made very decorative with little tassels on the end for the couch, or can be just made out of fun fabric. And that's all there is to making these little pillows that sort of look like dog bones. So it's going to fit in the back of the neck. So as you're resting, your head is not moving to one side or the other. It's staying upright because of the shape. We do not need too much back here, just enough to give a little bit of support. We can also use these pillows along the side of the neck. Depending on how big you make them will depend on how much you're going to support your head up. You will need a ½ yard of fabric and maybe not this much polyfill, but a little bag of polyfill will do 1 or more pillows. I'll put a link in the description to the handout, and I do hope you enjoy making your neck pillows. Congratulations, Fairfield, for your 80th anniversary. And thank you for joining me today on Sew Very Easy. Feel free to subscribe and come on back. Let's see what we're talking about or making next time in the sewing room. Bye for now.